Today, we will unveil one of the most intriguing and dark stories of the Scriptures, the fall of the four rebellious angels who challenged the supreme authority of God. Powerful beings, created to serve and glorify the Creator, but driven by pride and disobedience, they chose to walk a path of rebellion. Who are these angels who once dwelled in the heavens and are now condemned to darkness? What grave actions did they commit to suffer divine wrath? And more importantly, what role do these angels play in the spiritual battle that permeates the divine plan for humanity? Prepare yourself, for this journey will not only reveal hidden details, but also bring deep reflections on the consequences of disobedience and free will. In biblical tradition, fallen angels are described as spiritual beings who originally served God with devotion and obedience, performing distinct functions such as divine messengers, guardians of the chosen, and celestial warriors. Created before the foundation of the world and humanity, these angels had the primary purpose of exalting the Creator's glory and maintaining order in the celestial realm. Some of them received extraordinary gifts, standing out for their immense beauty, intelligence, and power. Among these angels, the archangels stood out as natural leaders, commanding angelic legions in favor of the divine will. However, not all angels remained steadfast in their loyalty to the Most High. Some allowed pride, envy, and ambition to dominate them, leading them to question God's sovereignty and initiate a rebellion that would shake the pillars of heaven. It is in this context that the four most mentioned and feared fallen angels emerge: Lucifer, Siasa, Arsel, and Beelzebub. The first, Lucifer, is undoubtedly the most notorious among them. His name, meaning light bringer, reflects the privileged position he held before his fall. Considered the most beautiful and exalted of the angels, Lucifer was believed to be responsible for leading worship and music in heaven, playing a central role in celestial harmony. However, his incessant quest for power and equality with God led him to challenge the established order. According to the prophecy in the book of Isaiah, Lucifer uttered words of arrogance and pretension in his heart, declaring, "I will ascend to heaven. Above the stars of God, I will exalt my throne. On the Mount of Assembly, I will sit on the utmost heights of the north. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." With promises of greatness and freedom, Lucifer managed to convince a significant portion of the angels to join his cause. This culminated in an epic battle where the archangel Michael, leader of the celestial hosts faithful to God, faced Lucifer and his followers. As narrated in the book of Revelation, this war resulted in the complete defeat of the rebels. The sacred text recounts that there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven anymore. And the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and with him his angels. The once glorious Lucifer was stripped of his light and transformed into Satan, the great adversary of God and humanity. Since then, Satan has tirelessly dedicated himself to corrupting and distancing people from God, using lies, temptations, and schemes to lead them astray. He is described in the scriptures as the father of lies, the god of this age, and a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. This fall marks the beginning of an ongoing spiritual war, where Satan acts as the prince of this world, aiming to lead men into sin and away from God. Siasa is a central figure in the rebellion of the fallen angels, described as one of the most influential and respected leaders among the angelic hosts. His name, meaning "he who sees God," reflects the proximity and profound knowledge he possessed about divine mysteries. According to the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal work that, although not part of the official biblical canon, is widely mentioned in studies about fallen angels. Saïssa was the chief of the so-called Watchers. These Watchers were sent to Earth by God with the mission to guide and instruct humanity in its early journey. However, instead of faithfully fulfilling their task, Saïssa and the other angels fell into temptation, becoming corrupted by desiring the daughters of men. The account in Enoch clearly describes how these angels, enchanted by the beauty of human women, made a solemn pact among themselves, vowing under a curse not to abandon their plan, regardless of the consequences. The narrative continues, revealing that about 200 angels descended to the top of Mount Hermon, led by Saïssa, and took women as wives. From this forbidden union, the Nephilim were born, a race of giants described as voracious and destructive. Additionally, the Watchers shared celestial secrets with humans that should not have been revealed. This knowledge included magic, astrology, metallurgy, and even the making of weapons, resulting in a dramatic increase in corruption and violence on Earth. Instead of promoting good, the teachings of the Watchers ended up being used for evil, bringing chaos and destruction to the divine creation. The Nephilim, hybrid giants born from these unions, became fearsome beings who not only devoured everything around them, but also committed abominations against men and animals. According to the Book of Enoch, these giants devastated the creation so much that the earth itself cried out to God against the wickedness and violence spreading within it. The divine response was swift and decisive. Seeing the wickedness of men and the fallen angels, God regretted the direction creation had taken and decided to end that era of corruption with the universal flood. Noah and his family, described as righteous and obedient, were chosen to survive and continue the human lineage. The Most High sent the angel Uriel to the house of Lamech with a clear message for Noah. He should prepare for the great cataclysm approaching by building an ark to preserve his life and that of his family. At the same time, God decreed severe punishments for Saïssa and the other rebellious angels. The Book of Enoch describes that the angel Raphael was ordered to bind Saïssa and the Watchers in the abyss, a place of darkness and torment where they will remain until the great day of judgment. Furthermore, it is mentioned that Raphael was also instructed to bind Asal, another rebellious angel, by throwing him into the darkness and covering him with rough and sharp stones so that he could never see the light again. This punishment not only symbolizes the definitive separation of these angels from the celestial kingdom, but also reinforces the message that disobedience to God brings eternal consequences. According to the prophecy, on the great day of judgment, Asal will be cast into the fire, and the earth will finally be purified of all the corruption caused by the fallen angels. This part of the story reminds us how the pursuit of power and forbidden knowledge can lead to a fall, bringing destruction not only to those who rebel, but also to everyone around them. The fallen angels not only corrupted creation, but also directly challenged divine authority by proclaiming that God would not destroy all human flesh through the impending flood. However, the divine response was firm and relentless. The Lord instructed the Archangel Michael to deliver a clear message to Saïssa and his associates. They would be contaminated by their own transgressions, witness the destruction of their descendants, and be imprisoned beneath the hills of the earth for 70 generations until the day of final judgment. This terrible fate meant that after the designated period, the rebellious angels would be taken to eternal fire, a place of unending punishment where their condemnation would be consummated forever. Thus, Saïssa and the Watchers were imprisoned, while their children, the Nephilim, were exterminated by the great flood that covered the earth. However, some traditions suggest that the spirits of the surviving Nephilim became demons, evil spiritual beings that wander the world in search of bodies to possess and souls to corrupt. Another fallen angel who plays a fundamental role in the spread of evil is Asl, also known as Azazel. This angel, whose name means "he who God strengthens," was known for his courage and extraordinary skill in warfare. According to the Book of Enoch, Asl was one of the leaders among the Watchers who joined human women and taught forbidden celestial secrets. He stood out by introducing the art of making weapons, armor, and shields, as well as teaching women the use of cosmetics, adornments, and jewelry, promoting vanity and idolatry. These teachings not only fostered violence, but also corrupted customs and diverted humanity from the divine path. With the spread of fornication, idolatry, and greed, the world plunged even deeper into impiety. The Book of Enoch describes in detail the severity of God's judgment on Asl. The Most High declared that Asl would be primarily responsible for all the evil caused on earth and ordered the archangel Raphael to bind his hands and feet, casting him into the desert. There he was to be thrown into a deep pit covered with rough and sharp stones, where he would be enveloped in total darkness, never to behold the light again. This punishment symbolizes not only Asl's individual punishment, but also the absolute separation between the sacred and the profane. According to the prophecy, on the great day of judgment, Asl will be removed from his confinement and cast into eternal fire, where his destruction will be definitive. Interestingly, the figure of Azazel is also mentioned in the book of Leviticus in the context of the Day of Atonement ritual practiced by the people of Israel. In this ritual, 2 goats were presented to the high priest, who would cast lots to determine the fate of each. 1 goat was designated for the Lord, being sacrificed as a sin offering, with its blood sprinkled on the mercy seat, the sacred place where the divine presence was manifested. The other goat, known as the scapegoat, was designated for Azazel. Symbolically, the high priest placed all the sins of the people of Israel on this goat and then sent it into the wilderness, carrying away the nation's iniquity. This ritual represented the removal of sins and the separation between what is holy and what is profane, reiterating the need for spiritual purification before God. This mention of Azazel in the Day of Atonement ritual reveals not only the profound symbolic connection between the fallen angel and the concept of sin, but also the constant struggle between holiness and corruption throughout human history. While Sayasa led a rebellion that brought forbidden knowledge to humanity, resulting in destruction and judgment, Asl personified the practical spread of evil by teaching skills that led to violence and estrangement from God. In this way, both angels not only fell from grace, but also became eternal symbols of the consequences of pride, disobedience, and spiritual corruption. Beelzebub, the last of the fallen angels to be mentioned, is shrouded in mystery and fear, being a central figure both in Jewish tradition and the New Testament. His name, meaning Lord of the Flies, carries a connotation of impurity and corruption, associating him with control over plagues and diseases. In the history of the people of Israel, Beelzebub was identified as the deity worshipped by the Philistines in the city of Ekron, a people who frequently opposed the God of Israel. According to the scriptures, the Philistines believed that Beelzebub possessed the power both to inflict and to cure pestilences. This episode is highlighted in the passage where the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred symbol of God's presence among the people of Israel, was captured by the Philistines. Shortly after the capture, a series of plagues afflicted the Philistine cities that housed the Ark, starting with Ashdod, where the God of Israel demonstrated his power by overthrowing the statue of Dagon, the Philistine god, and afflicting the city with tumors. Fearing the growing suffering, the Philistine princes decided to send the ark to another city, Gate. But there the plagues continued, causing even more destruction and panic. Finally, the ark was taken to Ekron, where the inhabitants, terrified, pleaded for it to be returned to the people of Israel. Fearing total annihilation, the princes gathered again and decided to return the ark, but not before consulting their priests and diviners on how to do so correctly. The priests suggested that the return be accompanied by a sin offering consisting of 5 golden tumors and 5 golden rats, representing the plagues that had afflicted the 5 main Philistine cities. Although this offering symbolized the recognition of divine power, God did not accept the atonement, and the plagues continued until the ark was finally returned to Israeli territory. Beelzebub, in addition to being mentioned in the Old Testament as the god of the Philistines, also appears in the New Testament, where he is directly associated with Satan. This connection arises during the ministry of Jesus, when the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the time, accused him of casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub, the prince of demons. This accusation occurred after Jesus had healed a blind and mute man who was possessed by an evil spirit. The crowd, impressed by the miracle, began to question if Jesus was the son of David, that is, the promised Messiah. However, the Pharisees, in their unbelief and envy, tried to discredit Jesus by claiming that he performed such deeds by the power of Beelzebub. Jesus, perceiving the malice in the Pharisees' words, responded with a forceful and indisputable logic. He argued that a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. If he were casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub, it would mean that Satan's kingdom was in internal conflict, heading toward ruin. Moreover, Jesus questioned, "If I cast out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your sons cast them out?" With this response, he not only exposed the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, but also made it clear that his works were performed by the Spirit of God, evidencing the arrival of the kingdom of God among men. In spiritual symbolism, Beelzebub is often associated with disease, moral corruption, and idolatry. His title of Lord of the Flies reflects the idea of decay and impurity, representing forces that oppose holiness and divine order. He is seen as the Prince of Demons, a being that operates in the shadows, promoting disorder, temptation, and suffering. This representation reinforces his position as one of the most feared fallen angels, whose influence is felt not only in ancient history, but also in the spiritual struggle faced by the faithful throughout the ages. Beelzebub, like Sayasa and Asl, not only participated in a rebellion against God, but also left a legacy of destruction and evil. His story is a powerful reminder of the consequences of idolatry and spiritual corruption, emphasizing the importance of fidelity to God and the recognition of his sovereignty. Whether through plagues, conflicts, or spiritual temptations, Beelzebub symbolizes the resistance of darkness to light, an ongoing battle that, according to divine promise, will culminate in the final victory of good over evil. These are the 4 fallen angels mentioned in the scriptures, those who rebelled against divine authority and were cast into darkness. Lucifer, once the glorious lightbringer, became Satan, the great adversary of God and humanity. Sayasa, leader of the Watchers, was condemned for introducing forbidden knowledge and corrupting humanity by joining the daughters of men. Asl, master of the art of war and responsible for teaching men the use of weapons and adornments, brought violence and vanity to the world. And Beelzebub, the lord of the flies and prince of demons, became a symbol of corruption, impurity, and the plagues that afflict creation. Together, these fallen angels represent the rebellion against God and the origin of many of the evils that afflict the earth. Despite their apparent influence over the world, their story does not end with victory, but with definitive defeat. The Bible describes their end with impressive details, reinforcing the certainty that God has absolute control over their destiny. In the book of Revelation, we read that the time will come when an angel will descend from heaven, bringing with him the key to the abyss and a great chain. He will bind Satan, identifying him as the ancient serpent, and cast him into the abyss, where he will remain sealed for 1,000 years, prevented from deceiving the nations during this period. During these 1,000 years, the saints will reign with Christ in peace and justice. However, the prophecy also reveals that at the end of this period, Satan will be released for a brief time and will once again attempt to deceive the nations of the four corners of the earth, symbolized by Gog and Magog. He will gather a great army for the final battle, but the attempt will be in vain. Fire will descend from heaven, consuming his armies, and he who deceived the nations will be thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet will already be. The destiny of Satan, the fallen angels, and all who followed him will be eternal torment, with no possibility of return, marking the final victory of God and the definitive triumph of good over evil. This conclusion not only ends the story of the fallen angels, but also reaffirms the hope of God's people. It reminds us that no matter how much evil may seem to prevail temporarily, its end has already been decreed, and divine justice will prevail forever. God's plan is perfect, and his victory is guaranteed. We hope this video has helped you understand more about the story of the four fallen angels of the Bible and their impact on the world. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing intriguing topics like this one. Want to know more about other interesting subjects? Leave your comment with suggestions and questions. Until next time, and may God bless you and your family.